Thank you, Piyush. Thank you, Sahil, for being here. Today, here we are at the Unicorn panel. That's the basic part of it. We've been having conversations around the larger macro sense around AI, but we want to go a little bit deep into how AI can impact the companies who've already scaled, the companies who are already there, and how they are adopting AI in their internal processes. So first thing first, because the panel is about AI moats. Piyush, I'll ask you first. How do you think, AI becomes a moat, or it becomes a means to disrupt the disruptors?
Yeah, firstly, thanks. I was listening to the previous two panels, and there was both hope and fear, I thought, that got instilled. So I just want to say something and express something to everyone here. As entrepreneurs, there was a certain joy of building something new. My fear is that from an AI wave, there is I see a lot more fear of missing out than the joy of building something new. And even for me, a lot of the decisions we're taking was, yaar, kuch miss na ho jaye. This wave is so big, kuch miss na ho jaye. I think it'll be useful if all of us move away from the fear of missing out from AI versus the joy of something new, the joy of internet, which happened in '99, the joy of mobile that happened in 2006 and 7. Each time when we as inmobi or Glance or me personally ventured into something new, the joy of that technology and what it can do in the world out there was far more enticing than the fear of missing out. And I just want to leave it at that, because I myself sitting there was thinking, ye to yaar zyada ho raha hai, in terms of just a pressure cooker situation which we all sitting with, and just want to say that. To the question on moats, frankly, this is not the first time. The more AI has democratized barriers to entry, or lowered the barriers to entry for anyone to build something new, the more it has raised the barriers for defensibility. And hence, I think none of the things we can imagine were earlier moats are anymore moats. ChatGPT or the big foundational models, they have everything that they are looking at. So many companies who copied features, copied cute little things, are dead. There is more AI debris than AI disruptors right now. It's funny that in this industry, from a life stage standpoint, while there's a lot of funding happening, funding is saath, the debris is also happening very, very quickly. Because look at this company like Jasper, apparently $100 million of ARR, and shut off one day because ChatGPT launched the same feature, and suddenly it had massive distribution, right? So all these companies, like Claude, I heard that Claude guys saw so much of the API consumption coming from Cursor or Windsurf that they launched Claude Code. So all these guys realize that their speed at which they move from being LLM models to actual products, be it Claude Code or deep research from ChatGPT, that cycle is very fast. Google search, if you remember Google search used to see a lot of people are doing travel queries. So Google partnered and bought some company, I forget the name, in the travel space. After 10 years, Google said, I'll also do search, or I'll own a travel whatever company. These companies are launching it within quarters. So the speed at which companies are going up and the companies are going down is very, very rapid. So the moat is not, I keep hearing momentum is the moat. And capital, technology, ideas is not the moat, we know that. Momentum is the moat, but beyond that, there is more to the moat. There is a moat in the vertical use case we talked about. There's a moat, the moat is in the compounding system, where every user interaction in that field, is it strengthening a learning loop? Is it creating a feedback loop, which no one can compete with? The models cannot compete with. So I think the moats are in these areas, which people are not, I think people are failing to understand that the moats are in these areas of compounding, the areas of distribution, the areas of trust. These things will compound a lot more than pure automation, pure scale, pure funding, or even speed for that matter. I mean, I feel if for every new model upgrade, if your product will diminish, then you don't have a moat. With every new model upgrade, and it's happening every week, if you can ride the tailwind because of the model upgrade, it means you have a moat. Otherwise, you don't have a moat. So I think that's how we look at it. It's crazy because I think we at inmobi and Glance also saw, and frankly, I mean, I wonder about the smaller Series A, Series B companies. Even we are shitting bricks. Companies have done well, so-called unicorns. If you're not onto it, onto the toes, onto the job, onto figuring out what is real, instead of the hullabaloo out there, I think we'll also die. So I think it's very important. It was very important for us to recognize that and distill what truly is a moat versus what is not. And that's why we feel that the moat is in the compounding systems out there and not in doing something that is close enough to what the models will also do in 1 week, 4 weeks from now.
No, that's a very important point, and I think I'll take the pressure cooker situation to Sahil in the sense that in this FOMO, are your bankers giving you more sleepless nights, or is AI giving you more sleepless nights?
I think it's definitely AI, and I loved how Piyush framed it. It is the joy of building, right? It's almost that, I get this stream, I lie down in bed every night because I know what's possible, I know what can be done, I know what you can build, right? One thing is that I'm back to building, which I think kind of you lose access and it becomes harder, so you kind of gravitate towards more of the management style stuff. But it's the best thing that's happened to the whole company because I'm building and pushing code in production now, and that trickles down all the way, right? People get that. And that's a huge kind of change. But definitely it is a joy of building. It is not I don't think the bankers care, right? They don't understand this yet too. And the AI is coming for their industry too. So I think the point is that from a moat perspective, and Piyush shared a bunch there, I don't think the answer is in owning an LLM. I don't think that's the way to build a moat. I don't think the answer is in, it might be in building some expert models, might be in building, specialized use cases like, somebody built a healthcare model recently, which is a special expert model to scan X-rays from a certain, X-ray software POS provider, not POS, but the console provider. And that model cost 1/100th of what it would have cost using anything open source or anything off the shelf, and then building a RAG and a, fine tune and a guardrail and a tool calling pipeline on top. But if you could build a model from scratch, where you rip the whole thing out and you build it purpose built, can become moat, right? The data you use to train it with can become the moat. And then ultimately, like any other business, right? Distribution will win. I don't think it is different from software. It is different from business. Business is business. This is a new way of doing business. Yes, there's a new way of conducting, process. There's a new way of running efficiency, new way of doing interactions. Yes, but in the end of the day, it's still a business. And distribution and data, I think in this business, are going to become moats. I don't think the LLM, owning the LLM as such, is a moat, so to speak, because like you also said, it's changing so rapidly, and we are not, as businesses of verticals, we will not be able to innovate to build those LLMs. But what we have is our own distribution and our own data, which is only ours, right? You think about ChatGPT, all of this stuff that is getting trained on Indian data. What is the ROI India makes on that? It's all going to Silicon Valley. What does India make on the data? We've got the largest population in the world, the most number of internet users. We are generating the most content out there. We are going to grow in generating that content out there. How is that coming back to us? It's training ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those things. It's not coming back to us. So that is a question that we should ask as a country, what is our moat, right? And I think that's a very important question to answer. And I do think that, startups, corporates, we have treasure troves of data that we sit on. So we should build our models and we should bring it back home. I mean, that's my thinking at least.
No, absolutely. And in fact, that brings me to my next topic of conversation is like, how are you using AI specifically in your own business, given that, the sector, there's a lot of automation, it can help smoothen processes, increase efficiency. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so I think we have a three-pronged agenda at Shiprocket. We set this only 7 months ago or 8 months ago as a formal charter. And I'll urge everybody in the room to start doing something around this, because not to give FOMO, but hopefully to kind of give joy of doing things better. So we basically break it as saying there is first AI for ShipRocket, which means that we are first going to transform our own organization so that we can learn in the process, we can get better in the process, get more efficient, get hyperscale in the process. As we learn, on that journey, we want to build AI for ShipRocket's customers. Right? So all of our merchant community out there, we are building tools to help them access better, tools for them to use AI to run reporting, tools for them to predict risk, predict returns, predict bad customers, convert checkouts faster, everything, right? So that's the next kind of prong for the strategy. And finally, we believe this opportunity is so large and so humongous for India that ShipRocket will also play a role in building AI for India. Recently we've done a joint venture with a US company called UltraSafe. We've launched our own sovereign model called Shunya.ai, which is in fact a way for us to be able to play a role here. But from the audience's perspective, for you guys, what I think I'll talk a little bit more tactically about what we did in the AI for ShipRocket, right? AI for our company. There, I think we did 2-3 things. We've done sort of, I'll tell you more like a 2-3 things you can implement immediately, right? So we got our HR person with a clear training agenda. First, she had to get trained on what do I train on. And there's a clear training agenda that every employee needs to get trained if it requires that, the way you might train for skills on basic things like, how do you use prompts, what do you use what for. Our engineering teams are constantly revamping their, the way the platform's written. How did you break monoliths into microservices? Might change now. You might want to use MCPs in different places. So they are going through their transformation so that they are ready for the future. So do talk to your tech team and say, are you ready? Just saying that let's keep everything the same and let's slap some AI on it, that doesn't work, right? You have to rip and replace, but you also cannot do it overnight because the engine is running. So that is a very, very complex problem to kind of get over. Then training kind of the management as well is harder than training your kind of middle and long tail sort of the larger base of teams. And there we actually use things like Anytain, right? We self-hosted in the company. It's a workflow builder. Anyone's used Zapier before, it's a bit like that. But you can host it, you can use stuff off the internet. The one we immediately used was something called Relay. It's the most simple to use. You can do things like if I get a new email, send this email to OpenAI, make a summary, and then send it to this person, right? Or put a Google Sheet. Recently, our marketing team demoed something where all of our content, all of our marketing performance is being pulled from Google Ads, Facebook Ads into a Google Sheet, right? Which like the marketing manager can say yes and push it back. These are softwares that people have made on their own. So what's happening is AI is actually making, what the thing with SaaS used to be that software is going to be generalized, right? The bigger it gets, the better it gets. That's actually getting a little bit spun back on its head, saying, no, actually, AI lets you make personal software. So the smaller it gets, the better it gets, because each one of us can have our own software. On inmobi, each one of us could have a generated feed for all, they could care, or we could care, right? So the future in that sense can be very, very different, because of the capabilities that are now existent than what we have imagined so far.
No, that's absolutely very valid. But I think for the hyper-personalization products that you're building, could you maybe give us a snapshot as to how AI is making it better or maybe more powerful?
Yeah, I think I'll get into specifics maybe, but what will be useful is maybe a small story, right? Recently I met an engineering leader in the company. He's been with us for like 8-9 years. Strong guy, extremely strong guy. And I met him and said, Yaar, how are you? How is this change affecting you? And he said, sir, bahut pak gaye the, many years in the pre-AI world. As an engineering owner, right? Yaar, sir, I was just spending maybe 80% of my time in managing things, deploying things, the grunt work, karna padta hai, numbers and whatnot. But the joy of doing engineering was not coming. Now suddenly, he said, sir, I feel powerful now. I feel powerful in what I can achieve in life for the company. That 70% grunt work is almost gone. And now I'm able to imagine, build, code, deploy, pitch. Because suddenly there's a strategic narrative that the engineering guy can give to the founders or whoever. So in one stroke, and I use the word, the framing of this, which I read somewhere, there's a whole thing of super agency has crept in. This engineering guy who for 10 years thought, yaar, main to coder hoon, and after 10 years, I will become maybe a product guy, or a strategy guy, or whatever, and these things happen after 10 years, suddenly this guy felt, I am coder hyphen PM hyphen UX designer hyphen McKinsey strategy consultant all in one shot. So imagine the power it gives to people if they recognize that power. And I really love this concept of this super agency, because then this guy felt, sir, now I can build 3 AI products altogether. Why are we talking only about automation? So Prateek, to your question, what we went through as a phase, while automation, productivity, and all were baseline, and frankly, I don't want to make it sound trivial. Huh? It is hard. Even to get basic automation, basic stuff done is hard inside the company. So I don't want to trivialize it. But the reality is that the real game was to change the company's product itself. And not just say, Kone mein, there are 5 people doing AI projects. The moment we say there is a project on AI running out there, it means the company is going to die soon. Versus saying the company has to completely change, completely reverse flip types on saying, this is an AI company, our products. So Glance, for example, after 6 years of a version of Glance, painfully said we have to change and make it a Glance AI version, a completely new category, a new product altogether for AI commerce, not as connected to the previous version of Glance, but to change the game altogether. Riding on distribution, riding on data, riding on muscle, but we have to change the product itself. Same for inmobi. The same old inmobi is not going to remain true unless we change the game altogether. And for doing that, you want your people out there to feel that power. I don't need, the engineering guy doesn't need a PM to draw the PRD or the design, or a strategy guy or a business guy to say, please tell me how to pitch and all that. It's all bundled into one. And I feel that power is something that we have to understand that our people have. So that I think more than the specifics or the strategy, if we recognize the power in the hands of our people and enable them, they will build far better, interesting products from scratch altogether, AI native products as we call them, than pure automation or productivity.
No, in fact, that's the sense of power is absolutely important. It empowers employees also to drive towards a new goal that the company is setting for them. But at the same time, does it also bring us to a point where we can do more with less? And when I ask that, I don't specifically ask only from the HR perspective. I'm asking generally also in terms of funding dollars. Like, can I just quickly build products and scale it up faster so my go-to-market is shorter? So I would like both of you to take a dab at that.
No, for sure. I mean, and you're right, this excitement is back in the engineering teams, it's back in me, right? So clearly it's great. Like, people are staying up at night, sending me demos at 4 a.m. saying, I just vibe coded this last night. The thing is, the vibe code stuff is not going live. But the point is, it lets your thinking process happen. It brings people onto the same page. So definitely, I do think it is cutting down time. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we are all seeing it in our companies on a daily basis. It's not even like a thing that has to come in the future. And I think that from a less is more perspective, so that has always been the case, right? Because everything which is a revolution of technology is always this. But it's just happening so fast that the time compression is what makes it a little dizzying and a little overwhelming. Otherwise, we are all tech people here. We've grown up with tech, right? Couple of years, cycles change, 3-4 years cycles change. We're all used to that. But cycle changing every month, every V1, V2, companies dying, getting birth, that I think is a little crazy. So we should let, somebody joked the other day ki, sir, इस बार ना 4 और 5 में ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं आया, thank God. Imagine he said, thank God, अब बनाना शुरू करें कुछ. Point being, people I think हो जाए पहले यार, let it kind of settle down because it's happening too fast. So I think उसका flip side यही है that when things do happen that fast, there is a lot of things that are happening in the world which are new opportunities. And definitely, one person, unicorn companies, will they get born? They could. Definitely they could, right? We already had them. It's not a new thing. WhatsApp was 20 people. They got sold for 20 billion. That's $1 billion per head. So it's not new.
Yeah. Piyush?
On that point, on the last point, no, I mean, I think more or less, or less is more or whatever, I think that definition of that point is going to change dramatically. Linked to the power, linked to disproportionate leverage. each of these technology brings leverage of a certain kind. When you combine that leverage with a vertical problem or a use case or whatever, and that power in your team, one can create magic very quickly. So this whole thing about, 20 years ago, the unicorns that came in India or the Valley, when they hit unicorn status, they were 500 to 1,000 people. 5-10 years ago, when unicorns happened, and when we became a unicorn or whatever other companies, we had about 200 to 50, 300 people, whatever. Right? WhatsApp, of course, at 19 billion, whatever, at that time when it got acquired by Meta was 70 people, if I remember correctly. And now, this thing that 5 people, 10 people can build a unicorn is actually true. So of course, one has to think like that. Of course, when that engineer is saying, sir, main bana leta hoon, if you can possibly incubate 10 more such projects, 0 to 1, or -1 to 0 inside the company, maybe you'll have 3 more S-curves coming out of the company. Like in our case, what felt like a 0 to 1, I'm giving an example of Glance and Glance AI. What felt like a 0 to 1 12 months back, it suddenly become the company. It suddenly become the main dominant project. And now we are saying, acha, 0 to 1 is now, it has to rapidly move from 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. So that 1 to 10, 10 to 100 cycle is getting crunched in our ambition, in our globality and all that. And now we are saying, yaar, baki 0 to 1 kahan hai? Because we need more such things to incubate.
Yeah.
So I think companies can do more as long as of course, the problems and the definitions are correct and all that. See, all of this, by the way, it's not about logic. Back to what I think Sahil was saying, na, khud ko maza aana chahiye. If the energy is back of building from a founder standpoint, if the power is back for the engineering leader or the PM, and you see feedback loops very quickly on whether it's working or not working, obviously there's more intensity in the game, right? You want to play the game. You want to, even if it's hard, you want to play the game. And I think that's what we got to take away, that the game is out there to grab, and like internet happened, like mobile happened, like cloud happened, this is actually a 100x game than internet or mobile. That is very sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And we've run out of time, but I'll just encapsulate this conversation that we had in I think there's just 2 sentences. And I think it's playing to the core strengths of these startups, which is tech and engineering. And I think if you're sticking to that, the game is still on, right? And you're still in competition. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for sharing your insights on how you guys are running the show and how AI is disrupting and opening up opportunities for you guys. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.